Greetings, it is August 11th, 2015. I just came across a photocopy, it's kind of like one of these old Xerox type reverse white on black photocopies that must have been sent to me by the paper that had published this review of my art, published in the News Sun, Springfield, Ohio, July 10th, 1982. And I recall a couple of things. One, I remember a acquaintance friend, a sculptor named Ken Fisher in Portland, Oregon, was outraged when he heard that I got critical press after having paid for shipping at least two, Springfield, Ohio from Seattle, and I might have paid for return shipping as well, I don't recall. I at least paid shipping one way of my work. And contrasted with that, a college friend, Jerry, who's been a follower of my work since we met in fall of 1974, now in Copenhagen. I remember him saying that this was a great review. Why is it a great review? Because I actually got critical feedback. The guy didn't like my work, said so blatantly. And I have to say that having been a working artist and exhibiting here and there over many years now, I know that insofar as having someone tell me directly, let's say at an exhibit, that they don't like something I've done, is about as likely as walking down the street and encountering a like Pink Elephant playing the trombone. So I've actually had very few reviews of my art from exhibits, a small number. There's been articles about my exhibits in recent years that are more focused on educational aspects as opposed to being an actual art review. This review by the News Sun staff writer named Jim Hayes was actually an art review. So I'm going to read the excerpts pertaining to my work and a little bit about the other artist who was exhibiting. Unfortunately, I don't own a proof of the etching that they reproduced of mine called The City, C-I-T-Y, which is an etching I did probably around late 1970s or early 1980s. Sculpture Etchings on Exhibit by Jim Hayes, News Sun staff writer. An exhibit of sculpture by a local man and etchings by a Seattle resident continues through July 23rd in the Springfield Arts Center at 107 Cliff Park Road. Arnold Epp, for the past 16 years, who resided in Springfield, is showing 11 pieces in wood, stone, and clay. Akiva Segan, a New York native now residing in Washington, is showing 24 works culled from his recent production. Epp's figures assert an immediate, silent dominion over the large gallery of the center, a dominance that derives perhaps from their energy, whether in action or repose. So we're looking at this image of Epp's sculpture called Sleeping Beauty, again in reverse. Everything that's dark here would otherwise be light, and the light sections would be dark. Can't tell what media it is. But actually I'm going to guess it's stone, judging by the kind of like the tonal imagery. His Sleeping Beauty and two somberly powerful studies of grief, In Memoriam and Mourner, find Epp in a quietly contemplative mood. In more kinetic expressions, Epp reveals an eye with sure focus for the nuances of movement that invest most of his pieces with the authority of the laws of physics. This sort of attention is especially well remarked in the posture of Woman in Storm, whose head, shoulders, and knees derive muscularly into the wind. Interjection here, I'm going to look up and see if I can find Arnold Epp and his work on the internet. He achieves similar good effect with Art Critic, a gallery goer whose obvious puzzlement is manifested by bent of both neck and knees as she peers at some inscrutable wall-mounted mystery. Epp's Art Critic would have been well placed staring into nearly any one of the works that hang on the gallery walls around her. Segan's etchings many others of which are gathered under some prestigious roofs, might be the masterly and insightful reductions as they have been acclaimed by those who label themselves connoisseurs. To me, however, they are generally so overwhelmingly busy that they generate little more than confusion. Others have spoken of his abundant technical skills, and he does fine with line and tone, but I remain resolutely unpersuaded by much of his work, especially those anonymous conceits that Segan presents as portraits, including those of novelist Alan Paton, Freud, and composer Bela Bartok. Bartok is sometimes a bit inaccessible to me also, but most often for the same reason for which I cannot warm to the Segan exhibit. I like to recognize the tune. There you have it. Thank you, Jim Hayes. I don't know if you're alive or not. Still 82, 92, 33 years later, but that was very, as far as aesthetic criticism goes, that was right on the mark. Terrific. Thank you. There you have it, folks. There are videos up on YouTube of my etching of Sigmund Freud. I videoed a friend in Scotland holding a proof of that he owns this past March. It's called Sigmund and His Beloved Common Newt. And there's at least one or two videos up of my etching in aquatint of Bela Bartok. The Alan Paton proof, I think there was only one proof ever printed of it. It's owned by Dr. Michael Reed in Michigan. I'll see if I could get a video of it. I don't even own a photograph of it. There you have it. August 27, 2015. About a week or so ago, I did a video in which I read from a kind of white on black photocopy of the article written by the late journalist staff writer Jim Hayes of Springfield, Ohio, per his review of an exhibit of a two-person exhibit which included sculptures by a late Ohioan sculptor named Arnold Epp and etchings and other prints from my works at the time. I think this was in 1982. So I just found not only a newsprint copy of the article, which shows a much better reproduction of Arnold Epp's sculpture, as well as my etching that they reproduced called The City, which I don't own an original proof of. But I also found a letter sent to me by the late author, Mr. Hayes, dated July 20th, 1988, written in, looks like fountain pen. Archaic. There's a quarter taped on the back. So I'm going to read that letter. And I wrote his daughter, but didn't hear back from her via Facebook. Springfield Newspapers Incorporated, Springfield, Ohio. 24-hour coverage, 20th July, 1988. Dear Mr. Segan, I only today first encountered either of the letters you sent to me or the newspaper. This undated but apparently most recent note is accompanied by masthead of the Seattle Times dated 14th July 88. I must have sent him an article about my work. I'm disappointed that you have experienced such shabby treatment in response to your earlier requests, but am happy now to do what I can to assist you. And truth be told, I don't recall what I wrote. Please find enclosed entire page 1 of our July 20th, 1988 edition. Well, I'm getting confused about the... I think he mixed up the years here, because I think the exhibit was around 1982. As well, please allow me to return the 25 cents you enclosed. Postage must have been a lot cheaper back in 1988. Maybe I had sent him a quarter to cover the postage for mailing a copy of the article, and to offer my apologies for whatever might have happened to your earlier similar enclosures. Oh, sounds like I sent maybe several quarters. The review I wrote appeared in a paper on July 10th, 1982, although we have the year. Please allow me to take this opportunity also to tell you, quote, thanks for your gracious remarks regarding my observations of the work you exhibited in that show 6 years ago here. I was especially heartened to find you describing these observations as, quote, right on the mark, and, quote, extremely well stated. Those are quite generous comments, particularly in light of the fact that those very observations might have sounded mean-spirited or gratuitous. So, thank you. Your comments lent, L-E-A-N-T, interesting, lent a bit of cheer to an otherwise somewhat gloomy day here. Please let me know if I might be of any further assistance to you. Respectfully, Jim Hayes, Springfield News-Sun, July 20th, 1988. There you have it, and I will have this added by the person who does video editing for me to the earlier posted video in which I read the review he wrote.